You can kiss my inner teeth, but what you're never take from me is the thing that gives this heartbeat beating. And you can hang up on the wrong, I'll just sing in a song and try and find a rhyme that goes with cheating. What more to expect? You put my respect. You blasted my face as you were screaming. So I'll do what she now, I'll with her teeth till I'm done. Her face is featuring nothing to the reason. I tried my best, like I want to spot. I look through the eye of this bar, so it comes down to this. It's all the time, me. Never change this kind of story.
I am here with Steve Ignorant, and I think my first question for you is about your name. How did you get to the name Steve Ignorant?
Well, everyone in those days was getting punk names, you know, like Sid Vicious, Johnny Rotten, and all this, and it sounded cool and all that. And I thought, well, you know, I'd like a punk name, and I thought, what would suit me? And because I didn't know anything about anything really, but most about politics, I was pretty ignorant of it, so I called myself Ignorant, and that was why, you know. So.
And so Crass became your education then, would you say, or?
Yeah, definitely, because where I grew up, it was in a very industrial working class area of East London. It's a place called Dagenham, big Ford factory, and I knew nothing. In my family, I think if they'd voted, they probably would have voted Conservative, even though they lived in a very Labour area sort of thing. So there was never anything spoken about trade unions or, you know, rights for the workers or that in my house. So of course when Crass started and people started coming, these people would ask me questions about unions, and I remember specifically at one gig these students came up and talked about unions, and I went, I don't know what you're talking about. And they went, don't you know what a union is? And I went, no, it was never spoken about. Again, you know, why I call myself ignorant. And of course, being with Crass and going out on the road and meeting people at gigs was my education. I learned far more at concerts than I did at school, I have to say, you know.
And how did you get involved with Crass? What is the story behind? Because you guys are all from very different socioeconomic backgrounds.
Well, basically what it was that Penny Rambo and G. Vulture lived in a... When they bought it, when they rented it, it was 1962 or something like that, and nobody wanted these ramshackle farmhouses in the countryside. Of course, everybody wants them now. Yeah. And they just had it as an open house. And the way it worked, if you don't mind me rambling on, basically the way it worked as an open house was that if you were a poet, you could stay the night, or if you were a cook, you could cook the meal if you wanted, or if you were a musician, you could play a tune, and or if you were a filmmaker. So that's the way it sort of worked. And I was taken there by my brother and fell in love with the place. Obviously, how old was I? 13 or something. Just come out of being a skinhead or something like that, and kept visiting, and was writing poetry, and they encouraged me to write poetry. They showed me how to do silkscreen T-shirts and things, or silkscreen posters. I can still remember the smell of that ink. You know, it just stays with me. Oh, and I just loved it. You know, and the whole stuff that, and I was watching Mick Duffield, who later was doing films with Crass on stage. He worked in Soho at the time, you know, when it was still the big film industry. Yeah. And the film companies used to throw out reels of films in skips. So we used to just grab... So there I was at the age of like 13, 14, watching weird French films with subtitles like Last Year at Marienbad and all this sort of really weird stuff. But it was, for me, it was so incredibly interesting. Anyway, that all sort of passed. And then when I was older, I think about 18, 19... punk rock had started, and I thought I want to start a band, and of course my first port of call was Style House, and luckily enough Penn went, you know, what you doing? And I went, I think they're starting a punk band. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I didn't even know what a band was, how you bought a guitar. And he went, I've got a drum kit, I'll play drums for you. And that's literally how it started. It was just me and him.
And you guys just, it was a thing to do.
As one person came through the door, do you play guitar? Yeah, I do. Yeah, right, you can be in a band. Oh, do you play bass? Yeah, I play. Oh, you can be in a band. It was literally that, you know, quick and organic, and I mean, it sounds ridiculous.
It doesn't. It suits Crass from what we all know of Crass.
Yeah.
That it was just this inclusive, do-it-yourself, let's see what works.
Yeah, and I mean, I know people have spoken to me about, going to see Crass gigs and how sort of, brilliant it looked and all that sort of stuff. But if you look behind the scenes, it was all gaffer tape and black paint, and stencils on bed sheets and stuff, But it just it must have looked amazing. I never saw it because I was on stage doing it. Yeah. But no, I mean, that's the way that Crass was, and the DIY thing. I mean, that's what. Because DIY now means to me don't involve yourself, because you end up going down B&Q and buying loads of paint. But no, I mean the thing was, it was just really organic. I mean, that's a sort of cheesy word to use, but it literally was that. And whatever you had to hand, that's what you used.
That's true DIY, though. It was truly punk back then.
Yes.
Punk now, I think. What do you think, rather than me saying?
Well, I think you see, it's a bit difficult, because I think if there was a punk band playing on TV, I'd go, they're not punk. But then you get someone like the Sleaford Mods, who aren't punk, but I'd go, well, they're punk. Yeah. So it's what the people, it's the attitude, it's what they're saying, it's what they're doing, more than what you look like, or the sound you make. Everyone knows the classic punk sound. For me, it's the Clash. That's the archetypal. Janie Jones, that's the archetypal punk song of all time. I don't care what anyone else says, that's it. And that's what I wanted Crass to sound like. Well, that worked. Not. But,
Crass had a very different sound, but...
and I don't know what to call it, because to me, if I listen to it, that's not punk.
No.
That's not sort of racket.
That's Crass.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the only way I've ever been able to describe it, is just that's the Crass sound.
Yeah, and I'm really proud of that you can't pigeonhole it, and you can't copy it.
No, definitely not, because it seemed every song, every album, something changed, and it wasn't like the last, and there was always something new and very unusual about what was going on.
Well, I think that unusualness and the uniqueness of Crass is because none of us were musicians. I mean, some of the members had sort of, had a Beatles songbook and could play the little chord things and all that. But the influences that, within that band were so different. You got me coming up from me David Bowie, sort of ska, who Small Faces thing. Then you got Penny Rambo with his Shostakovich and Miles Davis and Dave Brubeck and all that sort of thing. Then you got Pete Wright on bass, Frank Zappa, that kind of thing. So there's all these different backgrounds to it, and when you put it together, you get this weird, And we were also of the thing of like, well, who says that the first verse has to be 4 lines long? Make it 21, and then the chorus will be 1, and then the next verse will be 6. I remember the way that Penn used to work out songs. He wouldn't say things like, "I'll put more treble on your guitar, Phil." He'd say, "Well, can you make your guitar sound like it's stabbing someone?" And then you instantly get, of course, Mother Earth with Myra, the Myra Henley thing. It's, of course, that's what it sounds like. It's psycho, or it's something. It's like using. And I was like, do you know what? If this is avant-garde, I can quite get this. I mean, it got a bit too extreme for me in the end, with 10 notes on a summer's day and that sort of stuff. But I sort of got where it was coming from, and I still tend to work like that today.
Yeah. And speaking of today, tonight you're playing with your... I don't want to say fully acoustic, because it's not.
No.
But it's much more of a mellow and laid-back kind of feel, but it still evokes your anarchist youth, should I say?
I don't think... Yeah, that's one way of putting it, but for me it's a way of showing that even though you might be 59 years old, which I am, you can still say something and say it in a way that isn't screaming and shouting. Great, it's... To scream and shout, I used to do that, and sometimes I still do with Paranoid Visions. Yeah. But with this, I like people to be able to hear the lyrics, and and I just really like performing like it. And there's such great musicians, that trio behind me, really fantastic. So and it's just a different approach really. And I mean, the whole point of it was that if Pete was to write out the chords, that'd be so simple, anybody could play them. And funny, ever since I heard West Side Story, that song Tonight, and there was 2 chords in it, and then I heard of a composer called Eric Satie, who used to use 2 chords and get stuck in it, and I was like, well, 2 chords, yeah, that'll do me. So I tend to use 2 chords, and sort of I'll fill it that can you, and they sort of make it sound good. But no, I mean, I think I'm doing kitchen sink music for the discerning middle-aged punk rocker.
That's us, and we're all here. And
Yeah, absolutely, you know, I mean, it's just a shame I can't have tables and chairs downstairs tonight with little candles on, because I prefer that nowadays.
yeah, the kind of jazz club look.
Absolutely, and well, not only that, because a lot of people, and I'm not being funny, there's a lot of walking sticks going on around at my gigs, and hip problems and knee problems, you know, and you know, younger people may snivel, but your day will come, my little darlings. You know, I always thought I was omnipotent. Even I've got a toenail problem going on, so I've got to get that sorted. And things take ages to go away, don't they?
Yeah, toenail problems, definitely. Anything with that, no.
Colds and, you know, sneezes, they're there. Oh, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, as we get older, it all just kind of goes to pot.
Yeah.
So beware of that, young ones. You will be like us one day.
Yeah, but not as smart.
You spoke about paranoid visions. How did you get involved with them?
Do you know what? I can't remember. I was trying to think the other day, right? It's really bizarre. I think I was doing, back in 2011, I was doing the Last Supper tour. You know, that Farewell to Crass songs thing. And they supported us at Manchester. That's the first time I remember seeing them. And as we were sound checking, they were walking backwards and forwards across the stage. 200 of them, it seemed like. You know, that was bringing loads of people. And then they were meant to support us in New York later, but that got cancelled because our work permits didn't come through in time. So the whole thing had to be cancelled. And but Paranoid Visions were already there, I think, so they did this gig, and I said, well, in return, you can play at Shepherd's Bush Empire, the last gig. And a few weeks after that, I got a phone call, Steve, would you come over, you know, do you want to do some vocals on the next Paranoid Visions album? I went, yeah, all right, one song. 3 later, Peter Jones, right, that's the way it works. And then, oh, well, it's going on the album, would you like to come over to Dublin and do the record launch and blah, blah. And suddenly I was in, and ever since then, I've been in Paranoid Visions, and I don't quite know how it happened. It's just like...
You just fell into it.
But, you know, I just really enjoy it. They're such lovely people, you know, and I think, you know, there's one album they did, and I can't remember, shamefully, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like all crosswords and things.
Oh, yes.
And I said to Deco, you know, you've arrived, mate. You know, this is your time. You don't need me no more. You've arrived now. This is Paranoid Visions, and crack on, mate. And you know, he had a little tear in his eye, you know, and so did I. But it was just like, you know, you've done it, mate.
Yeah. And it's a band that you still continue to perform with and still a member of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything they do. I mean, you know, I have to watch out because I'm doing, you know, my own stuff.
Yes.
You know, but where we can fit it in, of course I will. You know.
Yeah.
But I just love working with them, you know, I just love it.
And it's going back to more of the aggressive style music as well for you. So you have more of your softer side that you do on your own, and then you can get the aggressive thing out with them.
Yeah, doing my stuff, I can be sort of not Frank Sinatra, but Tony Bennett-y, you know. But with Paranoid Visions, I can be Steve Ignorant-y.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, it's best of both worlds, really. So.
And speaking of just being yourself, I understand that you are on the lifeboats over where you live.
Yeah, I was on it for 5 years. I did it for 5 years, but now obviously I've reached an age where I'm not seaworthy anymore. I'm too fragile, and you know, you become a liability to the rest of the crew, or to the people that you're saving. So I voluntarily stood down. Also because they've got a new training system now. So if you go for your CPR thing, the week after that you're going for your sea survival and all this kind of thing. If you miss one, you missed a lot. And I was like, do you know what? I'll stand back now. And so now I'm a fundraiser. you know. But if there's an enormous big shout, you know, they know where to come and get me, you know, if need be, and I'll always be on hand to.
It's something that you were passionate about then, about helping in that situation.
Oh yeah, I still am, because I mean I never ever, you know, dreamt, you know, when I was on stage shouting "I was a living" or "Big A Little A" or something, that one day I'd be out in the middle of the North Sea, you know, helping people out of the water. But once you get into it, and it's not a, you know, oh, what a big hero I am sort of thing. I live in a community that's right by the sea. They needed volunteers. Yeah, all right, I'll do it. I'll see if I like it. Yeah, I sort of quite like it. It's a bit scary, but I can sort of deal with it. And of course, the first shout we got, where I pulled someone out of the water, excuse me, pulled someone out of the water, and that was it. I was hooked, you know, and you just do it. But you don't think of anything. You don't think, you know, when the pager goes off and you go out to sea, you don't think, oh, I'm Steve Ignorant going out to sea and this is going to be really good. You're just thinking, what are we going into? What is it? You know, and you just click in. And it's not until afterwards that maybe 2 hours. For me, it was 3 hours afterwards, and I'd get a rush of adrenaline. I've got to talk about it. I've got to.
Yeah, I helped this person get.
Yeah. I mean, but and also it's a real grounder. I mean, the worst one we ever got was the page went off, and I got down to the lifeboat shed as quickly as possible, and we were on the boat, ready to be launched. And I went, "What is it?" And they went, "Oh, it's a 6-year-old kid gone missing." And it was like, right, okay. And Sam, the helmsman, he's gone now, but the helmsman, he went, "Well, if we're not stood down in 20 minutes, Steve, you know what's going to happen." And I went, "Oh no, don't." And he went, "Yeah, 20 minutes, mate, that's the limit." And I went, and we're all going, come on, like this. And we just set off the beach, and it was like, stood down, and all of us were just like, and I've never seen expressions on people's face, and mine as well apparently, but we were just like, just dead, you know, just looking at each other. It was just, I've never been affected by anything as much as that, and it taught me to respect anyone involved in the search and rescue, whether it's mountain rescue, you know, obviously the helicopter, you know, paramedics and the fire service and all this. I've got the greatest respect for those people, you know, because you need them.
Definitely, and it's a job that is not easy to do at all.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Emotionally and physically, and
it's a real kick in the back of the head, you know. I mean, but I would, if you're young and you live by the sea, definitely do it. You know, it's a young person's job. Yeah,
definitely. But hey, at least you're fundraising for it still.
Oh yeah, and what's really nice, you know, like last night, some bloke donated a load of money towards it, you know. So it's really lovely. It keeps them going. You know?
Exactly, it keeps them going. Yeah. And if someone would like to donate, what is the name, or where can they find it?
You can go to Sea Palling. Do you know what? I don't know. Check out Sea Palling Lifeboat on the internet, and then that'll give you all the details on it.
We'll find it and we'll put it on the video for you. Yeah, because it's a good cause to help, because
and it's
saving
totally
people.
Yeah, it's totally independent. So yeah,
and they rely on the donations to keep going.
Absolutely, yeah.
Donate, please.
Yeah. I'm my face, always goodbye. Too tough for you. Split in my eye, what did I expect? Could you just think of the rest and let a chance?